Hello, friends and lovers. What's up? It's Haelian, and today we got another informational Hades video for you, and this is going to be about the aspect of Eris for the rail. In case you don't know it, the aspect of Eris is probably the most powerful aspect in the game in a lot of different senses. Not in every single aspect that you can think of, because, you know, like 64, he was beaten by a different aspect. But in terms of consistency and general heat and also speed running as well, Eris has to be up there as the most consistent and easy to use aspect out there to do really well in the game, I'd say. So why is it so good? It's mostly because of this big buff. For 4 seconds after absorbing your special's blast, you deal more damage. That damage is plus 75%. That is a global damage boost. Every single source of damage, or nearly every single source of damage, will deal so much more. It is massive, and it's pretty easy to keep up. 4 seconds is a pretty long time, so we're going to be using Zeus's Keepsake because the best combination with most of the rail aspects is to use an on-hit effect like Zeus or Dionysus, basically. And we're going to be doing 32 heat. I'll show you the pack before we go. And we're going to have damage control on, which means we're going to need some on-hit effects to knock off that damage control easily. So here's our mirror setup. Probably not a whole lot to say here. It's a pretty standard outlook there. But if you got questions about the mirror or anything, now is a great time to ask about the loadout here. So here is the 32 heat selection. This one's actually kind of more of a fun one. I do think that most people, if you're looking to beat 32 heat for the first time, this is a decent pack setup. You'd probably want to turn down tight deadline if you're not used to it, though. And you could probably throw on a couple convenience fees and one lasting consequences or something like that. You could even do double forced overtime, but I don't think that's as easy as the convenience fee and lasting consequences. But we should be okay like this. There's really no amount of bad RG that would stop us from winning this, I believe, especially where the jury summons is. You really want to work around tight deadline based on how much you have in terms of jury summons, calisthenics program, benefits package, what kind of build you got going on as well. Damage control is important. If you have extreme measures 4 or not on, is going to be important for how you use the tight deadline as well, because extreme measures 4 adds a lot of time to the end of the run, which we will not be doing here, just because I do want this to be mostly about how would you go about using essentially the best aspect in the game. But let's get started and we'll talk about it. Allow me a sip of coffee here. So this is definitely going to be like kind of an over-explain. I shouldn't have to pause too much or anything, though. But more of an in-depth explanation as to what's going on. So we're going to be using the special, throwing it out, and just trying to land ourselves in it constantly. I'm not going to worry too much about hitting the enemies with our special. Ooh, nice. We got that epic attack. You wouldn't settle for anything else here unless you roll once and you still don't get it, at which point you'd probably do maybe electric shot, maybe thunder dash, one of those two basically. But an epic attack is really nice to start. So there is an important thing here, and this is for every single rail aspect, which is that under your controls, if you're playing with a controller, please, 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 please rebind the reload button. It's the only rebind that I really recommend in the game. It's the only thing that's really important. The default reload button is like R3, and it's just ridiculous. It's just so hard to utilize. So I really recommend swapping that to just something that, you know, one of your fingers is on more often. So yeah, again, I'm not worrying too much about hitting the enemies with the special. I mostly just want to be inside of it. And the best way to kind of think about it, I think, we're still going to take a hammer here, is to, in between every single reload, whenever you have to hit the reload button, that's when you're going to throw out the special. It's just such an easy pattern to get into, you know, and muscle memory will definitely take over very quickly. All right, so normally, oh boy, normally there's a lot of great hammers for aspect of Eris. We didn't get anything amazing, though, I say. Triple bomb's okay. Spread fire's bad for this. Spread fire's bad most of the time. You could definitely load out a build to work around spread fire, but it's not, yeah, it's not conducive. You'd want like a flat attack like Artemis or Aphrodite if you're gonna do spread fire. Hazard bomb gets really silly and wonky. I gotta do another video using Hazard Bomb, because the number can get really, really high, but it's not good, especially with Eris, because again, we don't want to hurt ourselves with it. Now, this is where some people will come in and tell you, oh, well, you can just dash out of it at the last second and not get damaged, but still get the buff. It's just like, yeah, but I don't want to be doing, like, I don't want to rely on these, I guess frame perfect is a bit of an exaggeration, but essentially frame perfect tricks to get the Eris buff every single time. It's just not that worth it, you know? Plus, this is supposed to be about, you know, taking the best options that you can if you were going to be doing this yourself, you know what I mean? So I'm just shooting, and I have, you know, built into my brain nodules here at this point in time just kind of roughly how long it takes before I need to reload if I'm holding down the shoot button. I mean, I'm definitely not perfect, and also in between enemy waves, I'm just tapping the reload button. You're probably going to hear some clicks from time to time. Since we got triple bomb, it actually does. I'll do that. We gotta take the shop here to avoid spending too much time in enemy chambers. The special got a lot more powerful when we took triple bomb, so getting some big damage on the special would be really nice. We do have to sell a boon at the end of the biome for Underworld Customs, so these are pretty bad. I'm not really interested in rolling them though. I'll just take Dying Lament. I'll take some max health. Dionysus. With the aspect of Eris, I mean, Dionysus's call is already pretty powerful, but especially with Eris, where it'll get that big bonus, it's gonna be even better. Whereas everything else here is probably not great. All right, that's actually kind of fun, I gotta admit. That's kind of fun. You can probably already tell that the Zeus's attack is doing really, really well. So Zeus, so these are the two probably best in slots, I'm going to say, on Eris. It's either Zeus's attack or Dionysus's attack. But Zeus kind of pretty easily overshadows the Dionysus one because Zeus has a lot of great follow-up boons, like the Jolted, like you could get Double Strike, you could eventually get the Legendary. Whereas Dionysus, you kind of just kind of get the hangover damage, and that's about it. None of the tier 2s are that interesting or that great. This is kind of a fascinating one. We can sell Dying Lament, which we just picked up, so I'm not really worried about what we got to sell. I don't know. What did you all want to see? I guess if I were to try to think of... it's really tempting to take Strong Drink here. It does help with the healing, and it's super early to get all that global damage and everything. It's just too tempting to take Strong Drink. I don't think I'd turn it down. If this were a crappier boon, like After Party or something, I'd probably do this for fun, so to speak. And you could definitely win with it. That's not a problem. Winning with Dio's attack there. It's just a matter of what gives you the best odds, and I still think Zeus would probably be the safer play slightly in terms of getting like the most damage output that you could. Okay, that's good. The Nectar hit the attack. We like that. Here's Boldy.
Hello, sir. You're always...
Do. Of course, we're gonna take the gold. Health looks fine. We got Thanatos. That's good for the timer, since the timer will be paused during Than. In the top right. We have a Chaos Gate in here, and we could take that to save even more time. We're not really looking for anything in particular from Chaos. Like an attack buff from Chaos isn't really going to do anything for us. Special damage might do a little something, you know. An attack buff from Chaos will not change how much damage the Zeus boon does, if that makes sense. Just what the white damage from the attack will do. So is it that important? Nah, I mean, there's always health and boon rarity and stuff, but that's not crazy important. We're probably going to do it, though. Unless there's... I think there's a circumstance where I might not do it, and that's probably if Zeus were on one of these two doors here. Otherwise, we'll play it... I guess you can call it playing it safe. Ooh, hoo, 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 hoo. I'm gonna call it worth it. What do y'all think? I think that's worth it. Trials are kind of tough. Like, if you watch a lot of my runs, we'll still take a common. It's still very good. If you watch a lot of my runs, you'll probably see me avoid trials very often, especially like high heat runs. I mean, trials are dangerous. They take longer, so if you're on a deadline, it could be trouble. You got this crap you gotta avoid from different gods. There's also, again, mostly about the deadline. There's also just some things about them, like they can't be a fountain room, which might be kind of obvious, I guess. So you're kind of knowingly taking something that's going to take a large chunk of time, I guess. So these are bad boons. We have no use for Trippy Shot. You could go into Scintillating Feast, which is getting like goofy and fun. I mean, you could. Is it good? Is it helpful? I mean, not really. I mean, with the triple bomb too, not being able to lodge that cast into a boss is kind of a downside. So you can't apply Boiling Blood. There's a couple other boons that would be nice here, though. We didn't get any of them. Dang. I guess we're just gonna throw in Positive Outlook. Something else to sell. We'll take this free palm to throw in the Jolt. We do have money, but that's okay. I'm glad we were able to palm the Jolted, too, there. All right, timer's looking solid. Nothing to really worry about there. Plenty of time on the clock, even taking a optional trial.
She's getting mad.
So I think you've probably noticed a trend where Zeus is going to be making many appearances at high heat play during speed runs and everything like that. Zeus is definitely one of the more... Zeus might be one of the best general gods to get in some ways. I mean, even if you're not going for a build that uses Zeus's attack or special, Zeus's Call is probably the best one in the game overall, and it can again segue into getting jolted, billowing strength, smoldering air. There's just like a lot of good things, and Zeus is pretty much always helpful. So the best pair with this juicy Zeus attack here probably has to be Poseidon on the special, on the dash. Splash Dash is just a very, very, very powerful boon overall on its own. I mean, I've beaten 32 heat using only Poseidon's dash and nothing else. I don't use the attack, I don't use the special, I don't use the cast, I use nothing. There's probably a video somewhere around here of it, and it's honestly not even that challenging for someone who's beaten 32 heat many times at least. But yeah, Poseidon's dash, very, very, very powerful. So that's what we're hoping to get here. After that, what are we seeking? I mean, so there's some great, great, great hammer combinations you can get with Eris. The first hammer we got just wasn't spectacular, I'd say. It's kind of middle of the road. So some of the good combinations are already destined not to happen. So we have 4 key rolls. We have a +1 dash on the board, which is tempting. You really just want one of 2 things from Hermes here, which is plus dashes or hyper sprint. That extra movement is just really, really powerful. Hyper sprint leads into a potential rush delivery, which is a massive damage boost. So I think I'm willing to throw 1 roll and get an epic easily. Boom, 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 boom. So let's get Poseidon here. So now there's just 1 boon I want from Hermes. And it's such a powerful boon, that rush delivery boon, that I'm probably willing to savor all the rolls for it. Because if you don't get it, you only get 2 Hermes per run until you get the sticks at least, in which case there's a 50-50, there will be a 3rd Hermes. But you don't want to wait that long to get it, you know? So this is where it gets challenging. Do I actually roll to get Poseidon's dash and then be down a roll so I can only roll the next Hermes once potentially? I think I'm willing to roll it once. here.
What else we got?
And maybe we'll get a key back up. Okay. The call's okay here. The call's okay. It wouldn't be totally wrong to do it, but I like splashing and dashing here. Let's see if Eurydice's over here. Oh, she is.
Hey, money.
I think I want to do this then. Okay. Yeah.
Set.
Now, this build, and pretty much any build in Hades, could center around one particular thing, which is that rush delivery boon. If you don't know what it does, it's plus damage based on your current move speed bonus. So right after we dash, we get plus 100% move speed, right? Rush delivery can go up to plus 100% damage. So we could get essentially plus 100% damage right after we dash every single time. And it's just bonkers. It's insane. So we really want to lean into that at this point. Might not get it though still. The options from Eurydice, you could do something just like Palms. It's not that crazy. You probably wouldn't do the Ambrosia here. The Palms would hit 4 different things, but we would be selling Dial and Lament most likely, hopefully. We're kind of lacking other boons to sell. But I think the right choice is to go Refreshing Nectar here to try to get that improved rarity on Rush Delivery. Hopefully we can get Epic, essentially. It'll probably last until we see the next Hermes, and we can play around it a little bit, too. We got Dionysus here. Dionysus's call would still be very strong. Maybe I'd take a Trippy Shot just for fun, but that would be the only real purpose. So I said Eris's damage buff is global damage on almost everything. So it does not affect... it does not affect things like summons. Like Meg Summon still will only deal 2,500 damage, even if you have the Eris buff up. There was a time where it was different, actually, but not anymore. There are ways to buff that damage. It's kind of inconsistent. Like Sweet Surrender from Aphrodite will buff the summons damage. I guess we'll take Vintage here. That'll dash +1. Oh, here's Hermes already. Okay. I only got 1 roll, though, so... only got 2 chances at it.
Inferno bombers.
So Sweet Surrender will buff it. What else buffs it? Targeting System Hammer on the rail will buff it. Ooh.
Welcome.
But things like Eris and Strong Drink buff will not increase the damage from the companion. So it's kind of all over the place, essentially. I don't know if it was like an oversight, like some things still affected it, but they weren't really meant to. There is this semi-famous glitch that you could probably find somewhere on my channel where we actually... the Thanatos summon, for some reason, can backstab. And if you get a bunch of backstab damage from Athena, the Thanatos summon can deal like tens of thousands of damage. It gets really crazy. No rush delivery. We got 1 more chance. Come on.
Let's see what else.
Oh, scammed. What can you do? Yeah, I'll just take +2 dashes. That's fine. With Splash Dash, it's pretty helpful. Quick Recovery is an okay boon. Auto Reload doesn't really do anything for us. Quick Recovery is okay. Are we done? Do I need boons to sell? I kind of do, but we'll probably get to visit the shop after Chaos. So maybe I don't have to worry that much. Yeah, because you can't sell premium vintage. We want to sell either Dying Lament. Ooh, really just Dying Lament, huh? Nectar affects Chaos here, right? I like how I'm asking a question right now. I'm pretty sure it'll affect Chaos. Yeah, it went away after we picked up the Chaos boon. Dash strike damage, cast damage, +1 cast. None of these are helpful. This is actually pretty harmful at the top here. Having everything hidden is kind of scary because I don't know which way will be the shop when we leave. And I want to go to the shop to try to buy boons to sell, essentially. So I guess I'm going to take cast damage up. All right, we'll take Poseidon. Hopefully we'll get to keep it and sell Dying Lament from Aphrodite. We don't know yet, though. Oh, these kind of aren't great. I guess we'll take Razor Shoals, and we're okay with selling that if we have to instead. I think Underworld Customs is probably one of the most interesting packs of punishment. It really changes how you think about how you're gonna play, and it's not the most harmful pact either at the same time. It doesn't feel that bad to have to sell a boon every biome, but it does feel nice that, you know, you have to consider your actions a bit more, I think. I think it's one of the better packs on the Pact of Punishment. Now, a lot of people don't like the idea of, like, essentially nerfing their own build just for the pact, and I think that makes sense for something like approval process, because that kind of takes it a step too far. But if the only pact you have on is Underworld Customs, you usually have more than enough boons to sell every single biome. There's usually one or two that you really don't need that badly. Okay, Lerny. I'm trying to stay near to deal that dash damage. Now we got lots of dashes. Didn't get rush delivery. What can you do, though? We tried. A lot of people... Okay, here's another common question. Why don't I pick up the gems after a boss? I mean, they just don't do anything. I have no use for jammies.
Let's think about this.
Yeah, we'll just sell Razor Shoals. It's a nice boon to keep, but I don't want to spend my last roll here to have a chance at selling Dying Lament, essentially.
Let's see.
And from here on out, I mean, there's a lot of different options. If you're trying to beat 32 heat for the first time, you should really just put on a defensive keepsake. Like Evergreen Acorn is probably the best one. You might consider a Skelly's Tooth if you're doing Stubborn Defiance, but you really shouldn't be using the Stubborn Defiance at 32 heat, I think. You just want to preserve those Death Defiance as best you can, so the Acorn is probably your best bet. The Yarn, would that do much for us? Not really. The next boon we pick up, there's no particular reason. I do have kind of a lot of money, so I'm guessing I'm willing to do it, and I'll try to make it so our next god pickup is Poseidon, who could give us the best, and that's probably who could give us the best boons at this point in time. The most useful boons. Something like Breaking Wave or getting Razor Shoals back. We'll take the second Hammy. A lot of people might ask things like, what about dual boons to go for, like Sea Storm, or I don't even know what else. Like that Trippy Shot one that I kind of didn't lean into at all. And it's like nice to haves, but not necessary. And you kind of got a lot of other things to focus on when it comes to the build. Something like Sea Storm is never going to be as powerful as the Hyper Sprint Rush Delivery combo from Hermes. Kind of sadly, right? In order to get Sea Storm at this rate, I'd have to take the Poseidon Special just to get it, let it be offered in the near future. And then Sea Storm would only get applied when I dash into an enemy, and it's okay. I mean, if it just happened, that's great, but otherwise it's just not that meaningful. These are pretty bad hammers, honestly. Delta Chamber's pretty... No, Delta Chamber's... I'd call it good. It leans into good, but like Piercing Fire is not helpful. Explosive Fire is pretty just weak in general. So I guess we ain't reloading for the rest of the run. So that's... I don't know. It's a nice to have. It's a comfy hammer. It's cozy, comfy. This is a big spoon of hammers, I guess. I don't know. I still, like, sometimes tap the reload button. You won't get a lot more powerful by taking Delta Chamber is the only thing. In terms of damage output, it's not going to do a whole lot. It actually does provide some level of safety, because what you need to know is that on the rail, if you're holding down the attack button, normally the game punishes you for continuously holding down the attack button. I think you do the dash there. Holding down the attack button and dashing at the same time, it's going to say, well, you're not going to get the I-frames, which means invincibility frames, while dashing if you're just going to keep attacking the whole time.
Boosted a boon.
That'll dash again. Again, I think we mostly want to focus on something to sell. We could fill in the call slot here. Kind of don't mind the special damage from that, though. We'll fill in the call slot with Dionysus, maybe. So what am I saying here? So Delta Chamber removes that. It makes it so you do still get the iframes while dashing. So now you can be more comfortable in holding down the attack button and not have to worry as much about getting hit, essentially. The rail is not like the fists. So you see, with the fists, You can hold down the attack button the whole time and dash around to avoid enemies hitting you, and you'll be pretty good. Like, the game still gives you those iframes while you dash. It might be one of the reasons why new players are much more comfortable with the fists in general, because they're a lot more lenient than something like the rails attack, which you have to get used to the reload, and you don't get those iframes when you dash and stuff. But yeah, Delta Chamber gives it back, so it makes it a bit more cozy. These are pretty terrible. I really want the call. It's just very good. Okay, there we go, finally. This hasn't been an especially lucky run, I'd say. It's been kind of just run-of-the-mill, but you can probably tell that it's, you know, this is a pretty easygoing 32 heat, right? A lot of people ask about call boons, and maybe I should do a separate video on these. If you want a separate video about the call boons and why I prefer some over the others, and why like speedrunners aim for certain ones and stuff, like, you'll see me go for Dionysus's call very often. Any patties? Ooh, Zeus. I don't think we need more Zeus that badly here. Could get billowing strength. That's about it.
All right then.
So yeah, you'll see me go for, you know what, we'll go for this. It's kind of goofy. Now we don't know the exits. You'll see me really avoid certain call boons, namely Aphrodite's. A lot of people will see that big, juicy 2,500 damage number and be like, how could you not want to get that? And you just have to understand that if you want to actually deal damage with Aphrodite's call, it has to be a full charge, right? And some chambers, if not a lot of chambers, you'll never even reach a full charge in the call. So what is that worth versus a call boon like Dionysus's, which doesn't sell itself as well because the damage numbers don't sound as juicy when you look at it, right? But you can use it just every now and then on a single charge. It also allows for certain other boons to be very helpful, like Second Wind, which buffs you after you use the call. Billowing Strength buffs you after you use the call. This Molding Air duo boon, which allows you to use the call way more often.
Delicious.
I think we do Jolted there. I'm not 100% though. And I think that's going to be way more useful. Also, when you use a call boon, you get a few iframes as well, meaning that it almost acts like an additional dash. So if you time it correctly, you can kind of use it to avoid getting hit by something. Come here, you. All right, I have the acorn on. I've already lost a lot of it. Woo! Don't mind me. The other truth behind the Aphrodite's call is that, yeah, that 2,500 damage number is great, but I mean, is that actually more damage than what 4 separate Dio calls could have done? 4 smaller Dio calls. Because that's different, because Aphrodite's call has no AoE. It's going to hit one enemy. You have to be careful to make sure it's going to hit the enemy that you want. Oftentimes, oftentimes it'll actually be overkill on enemies, right? Like, not many enemies need a 2,500 damage boost. You can look at a boss that way and
What about these?
everything. Oh, okay. I think we sell this. I really don't want to sell Strong Drunk. We'll leave the acorn on. It's fine.
A curse of chaos has expired.
And then the charm effect that the Aphrodite call does is just not, like, great. It just doesn't, it's not a helpful effect in the game generally. Charm is weird and just not very good, I think, overall. The anvil is actually quite tempting here to go for, like, something silly and goofy. You know what? Let's do it.
Stock up for the road.
Triple bomb gone, piercing fire, and hazard. Oh my god.
Which tunnel?
I see how it is, video game. I see how it is. Well, like I said,
Can't do that.
You can get iframes while you dash, and since we have Delta Chamber now, it will be a bit easier to not take damage from Hazard Bomb. But if we didn't have Delta Chamber, and you wanted to hold down the attack while that's going on, you'd be in trouble. We'll be okay. We'll survive. It doesn't deal that much damage. But actually, the more annoying thing than the damage, honestly, on Hazard Bomb, it's the stagger. You get staggered by your own attack.
Look at this mess.
And it's actually really, really annoying. Losing that triple bomb is kind of frustrating too, in the sense that it kind of helps slightly in keeping up the Eris buff. I guess I'll do the attack now. Really lucky on these palm offerings, honestly. Go back here, buy this.
Come in useful.
Well, those are not very good, unfortunately. Kind of doesn't matter. I don't think any of those are very meaningful. Wouldn't mind getting that special back, but... another call boon you probably see me semi-avoid is Artemis's call. Again, kind of similar to Aphrodite's, the singular charge for Artemis's call is just, it does very, very, very little. It's so small relative to some of the other calls. It's such a minor amount of damage. Sure, if you charge the call up all the way,
Disgusting.
you can deal a good chunk of damage, but it's just again, if you ever have to build up the full charge of call to really feel the effect, it's probably not going to be that good. Poseidon's call is fine. It's actually quite strong. It makes you invincible, deals a big chunk of damage, knocks enemies around. Ares's call, it doesn't deal a lot of damage. It's the only problem really with it. Zeus's call is amazing. Dionysus's call is amazing. Although you do got to be careful with Dionysus's call. You don't want it if you apply Hangover with other effects, because whatever the newest Hangover effect is on an enemy, that will be what overrides. So in other words, if you have Hangover applied on the attack, it's gonna apply a much smaller stack of Hangover, and it's gonna override the call stacks, which are a much higher amount. All right, Daddy, take us home.
So, darkness.
I don't even know if we ever went below half health for the run. That just kind of goes to show the power and consistency of this aspect, honestly. If you're struggling either getting a win or winning at 32 heat, this is definitely the safe way to go. Now, it is one of those aspects where it might not be amazing if you don't have it fully leveled up over at the aspects. But I mean, that's most aspects anyway. Most of them are pretty weak unless they're maxed out. Eris is probably fine. It's probably one of the better ones at scale. Yeah, we did it in under 12 minutes too. Look at that. Not bad for 32 heat, huh? Well, I hope I answered the questions. You don't normally want to anvil there at the end. Because things like Hazard Bomb could happen, you know what I mean? Is there anything I want to make sure you all see here? That's pretty much it. I mean, that's kind of the build. We had a bunch of movement from Hermes, but yeah, it's not the craziest thing ever. But yeah, there you go. That's 32 heat, everyone. Hope this was helpful for anyone that needed it. If you got questions, make sure you let me know in the comments. I will do my best to answer you, and then I'll see you in the next video. This time.